Hello, it's Raphael again, and today I'm going to tell you a little about why you have to actually turn the arm when you punch a certain place. Now, if you are punching just straight here, it's not going to matter, but if you're doing the rotation, it does. Now, one of the interesting things I found is, and I mentioned this in the video, is when people are doing Sanshin, you'll notice that they actually are here and they can punch straight. So the problem with turning too early is not if you're here, but rather behind here, there's a certain area where you start turning. To do that, I have to use an anatomy book, so I figure I'll use mine. It's this called Anatomy, a Clinical Approach. I do use a lot of clinical stuff, and it's what I use to teach anatomy. And you can use any books if you want to see what I'm talking about. And so that's only difference is this one's about $20, I think. You can probably usually get it for 10. So you can use whichever one you want. So I'm going to show you first one of the big problems that ends up happening, and that is in the bones. When you look at the bones, you have the radius and the ulna here. Now if you look closely, the radius, the head, is kind of rounded like a wheel, and that's actually what allows the arm to rotate. At the wrist area, the ulna has a little rounded groove, so it allows some movement, but the real thing that actually helps you rotate is the radial head. Here, if you can see in red, you can see where the radial head is. Elbow area, you can see here that there's a rounded head of something called the radius. And so it's going to rotate and cause rotation at the wrist. Now, the reason it is hard to rotate and then hit, for instance, if I just rotate my hand here, you'll notice that my elbow starts coming out. Even if I'm trying to pull it back, it really becomes difficult. The reason has to do with the muscles of the forearm. Besides the radial head, you also need to look at the muscles. And the muscles are, here we are, page 43 if you have this book. And what I'm going to be looking at is this arm right here. And I'm going to draw in one of the muscles, if you can see. Now muscles, when they contract, they only pull, they don't push. What I mean is this muscle, when it contracts, it's going to cause your elbow to come this way. When it relaxes, it doesn't do anything. You need the extenders or a force to allow it to move. Now, when this one contracts, it causes what's called supination, which is the way you move your hand to get a bowl of soup, and flexion of the elbow. So you have this movement. When it relaxes, it stays, but you have the antagonist that will allow it to move to this area. Now, if you look at the muscle, if you look at these two muscles here, what you can see is this one here is called the brachioradialis. This one here is called the biceps brachii. And what they do is they pull on the radius to cause you to go from a pronation, which is hands here, to supination here. And also to flex the elbow. It's hard. There's another muscle you can use to get the ulna up. But it's hard to keep your elbow in while you're in a flex position. So you have to wait a little bit to be able to rotate it out. If you are using those two muscles and you try to turn too early, what it means is you end up rotating your wrist, your hand first, which would mean that your elbow is going to come out a little to the side. You can't hold it in, but what you'll notice is, look at my shoulder. When I hold it in, you'll notice that there's a little bit of change, and this is actually not as strong as when it's here coming out. Which means that when you are here, the natural state of the hand is here, not here. If you rotate it too early, you end up having to move your elbow out. So that's why people, when they punch early, they rotate early, you'll see their elbow comes out. To fix that, well, like I said, Sanshin is a great kata because it tells you at this area you should be in a supinated position and flex. As you continue here, it's actually past that you can end up getting the rotation. If you go too early, you come out. Now, the best way to fix this that I found is you can either get a pen or pencil and put it between your two fingers here. So you now have something that you can use to make a straight line. So I'm going to rotate here so you can see what I'm talking about. So you have the straight line that goes in to the target. You will have a little bit, but the idea is if you turn too early, you'll notice, when you turn too early, you'll notice that there's a rotation here. If you turn right, and it looks weird on the camera because it's coming towards you, but if you turn right, you shouldn't have the rotation. I tend to also use my finger to guide here, so I'll use my chest there. So that's where it would be. So one of the reasons we can't do that is because we can't turn over too early is because of the muscle. It's really important to understand sometimes when you're dealing with the movement and stuff, the anatomy, so you can get the right movements. Now, I also wanted to tell you that today, starting last week, I did start putting 2 videos up. And I'm trying to do one which is just gross at the anatomy and how it relates to martial arts. It will have some application. It will have some other aspects. The other thing is I'm having an other. And the other category has to do with something a student asked me about, and it was a martial art lifestyle, what it means. And he wasn't the first one who actually mentioned it. There's Malag online magazine, which has talked about how they are a martial arts lifestyle magazine. And one of the things I have noticed, and I asked this question to people on Facebook, is what would be a martial art lifestyle? The funny part is, I've actually noticed I get along with a lot of different martial artists. A lot of times they're not even the same style I do. They don't even do the same style I do, but we get along because we have a lot of similarities, a lot of similar interests. And even if we disagree on politics, religion, what we consider ethical, we actually can sit down and rationally talk. And so I am trying to figure out what it would be, what a martial art lifestyle would be. I do notice that there is one thing that a lot of martial artists do that a lot of other people don't, and that's travel. And I've actually talked to a lot of people who will go to different places to take seminars in different styles. It's one of the things that really I think is part of the martial art lifestyle is travel. We all travel, and I think the other thing is adventure. And we don't go out looking for danger. For instance, I don't think there's any experienced martial artists who, if he hears, hey, they're mugging someone around the corner, they're going to be like, hey, great, let me go over there. But we do have a sense of adventure. I mean, we go travel, we meet people we don't know. We've actually stayed with people we don't know. And so that's one of the big things to look at is all the different things that we do have that are similar to us. I think travel is one, the fact that we train, and I think that the fact that we actually do want to know what's going on in different areas. I know I do the more biology aspect because of my training. I know some people go into the Chinese medicine aspect because of their training, and I know some people mix everything because they want to find out what the best way is. And I actually am one of the few, I don't think it's few, I'm one of the people who does believe that there are multiple, you should look at different sides and see what's happening. The other thing we all have is, I'm willing to bet that most martial artists here spend a ton of money on books. I mean, I did look at the demographics of martial artists, and for the most part, martial artists tend to be relatively successful. It just, I don't know if it's a martial art makes people successful, or if people are successful because if people who are successful tend to gravitate to martial arts. I don't know which. I hate to use the chicken and the egg because in biology we say the egg came first. But what we see is as I started thinking about it, I did start seeing that there is a definite martial art lifestyle, which does include travel, does include courtesy a lot of times. And yes, you always hear stories of the great martial artists who did things that they weren't supposed to. And I like Motobu. I will admit I love his stories. But a lot of people will say, well, look, he went into the Suri district to find fights. But the thing is, he went into an area that's known for places for finding fights. He didn't go to a local school looking for fights, or a mall or shopping area. He went to a place where people were specifically going to be looking for trouble. And if you were there and weren't looking for trouble, well, you probably wouldn't have gotten in a fight with them. And the other thing about him that you notice is he is in a lot of the old references. He's in pictures with almost everyone. For those of you who do Shitaru, you see pictures with Mabuni and Motobu training. You see actually nowadays people talk about how Funakoshi and Motobu didn't like each other, but you see pictures of them together. So one of the things that does happen is, one of the things is we actually only have the background stories. And I am going to try to get into that. Now later today, this week, I am going to have a video, I hope, up, which is on how to prevent infections such as staph, which anyone who watches martial arts or was in wrestling knows that some of these staph infections can kill otherwise healthy individuals. Ringworm, which a lot of wrestlers end up getting, and cold sores, which some people who grapple can end up getting in their neck and shoulders. A lot of the stuff that when I'm going to talk about that, I know that it's going to deal with also keeping yourself healthy by cleaning your clothes. And so with that, I hope you enjoy this video, and I'll see you next time.